Sounds like a hockey locker room in here. Well, no, not.
Yeah. So no one responded.
Yes.
So I mean, thank you.
Unfortunately, I can only do it in one direction. Got here. That was like 3 years ago. I don't think we have time.
Care about exec session and the fetal tissue bill. So you don't have to resignate unless
Something option before 30. No kidding. Cover up this
What time is it now? 12:30.
oh, mass transportation. It's in your room 7. Yeah. You could just listen to exec session.
In there?
Oh, yeah.
And this is really also the one that you follow.
Okay.
So that is really the only thing, unless you hear something else about toll roads or,
So then,
how to revise I-70. No, this is separate.
oh, it's just moving on.
Yeah,
Okay.
so they have a PowerPoint set up right now.
Today,
Yeah.
so there's.
You may have to be like well, they'll probably have it on their website, so just listen to it.
All right.
Right, thank you.
I might get fired.
So my. I was going to talk to the rest of the fireball.
Can I help with this? Is there anything?
Yeah. Great. Thanks.
Yeah.
It's kind of like this. I just
That's the best.
Yeah. Somebody sitting there? Yeah.
Oh, she is, okay.
I now call the House Committee on Children and Families to order. Please call the roll.
Chairwoman Franklin.
Here.
Vice Chair Neely.
Here.
Ranking Member Meredith. Representative Beard. Representative Bratton. Representative Brown. Representative Gannon.
Here.
Representative Payton.
Here.
Representative Lauer.
Here.
Representative Newman.
Here.
Representative North.
Here.
Representative Emily.
Here.
In the quorum present, we'll go ahead and hear our first bill, which is Representative Brown's 2492. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Gloria Brown, State Representative, South St. Louis County, District 94. And I want to thank the Madam Chair and the committee for allowing me to present 2492. This bill is simple, and I believe that everyone in the room can get behind it. It was brought to me by the Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition as a way to help in the foster care process. A little background. Children enter foster care because of abuse, neglect, or abandonment. All foster parents are required to be licensed to ensure that children are placed in a safe home. The licensing process takes a long time, but by statute, this process can be sped up when a non-safety waiver is allowed. In all cases, however, before a child can be placed, all foster parents must have completed and passed background checks, criminal child abuse, neglect, etc., and a home safety walkthrough. Currently, these waivers are allowed only for the relative category, which is in statute. That category consists of blood relatives within the third degree: parents, children, siblings, grandparents, grandchildren, aunts, uncles, nephews, nieces, and half-siblings, first cousins, great-grandparents, and great-grandchildren. House Bill 2492 would allow another category that the department calls kinship to receive the non-safety waiver. The kinship category is defined as individuals who are related by blood beyond the third degree, such as second cousins, first cousins, uncle, etc. It's also been expanded to include non-related individuals who have a close relationship with the child or the child's family, godparent, pastor, neighbor, teacher, etc. I decided to sponsor this legislation because most children who can't be raised by their own parents fare best with individuals in the relative category. Next best with individuals in the kinship category, where there's a relationship of some sort, and least positive with unrelated foster care. Again, thank you for hearing this bill, and I will answer any questions.
All right, thank you for bringing the bill. Has this been adopted in other states?
I think that our state is on the leading edge for this, but I have someone who can speak to that.
Okay, was this something that you had an example of? You've seen an example
I
of?
was at foster care and Adoptive Coalition Center, and they brought this to me because they were having such great success with the waiver, the safety waiver, getting children into foster care quickly with that they want to include it in this kinship category. And we talked to the department, and everybody was behind it.
Okay. How did they measure success? What does that mean? What's the difference between what are we talking about a time frame?
No, my understanding of success is as they, and I'm not an expert in this, but my understanding of success is that the children are children come out of the process and stay in the process and succeed in life. You know, it's really one of those kinds of successes. It's not where they do it by numbers, but that. But my person that's coming knows a lot more about this than I do. Okay.
All right then. Do you have someone specifically you'd like to call?
I do. This is my expert.
Thank you, Representative Brown, and thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Melanie Sheets. I'm the Executive Director of the Foster and Adoptive Care Coalition in St. Louis. There are 3 other agencies similar to ours across the state, one in Kansas City, one in Springfield, and one here in Jefferson City. And our job is to try to get children out of foster care and into permanent homes. I also like to share that I am an adoptive parent. My husband and I are adoptive parents of 2 children who are not related to us biologically. But I will tell you, since we've gotten to know them and their extended family, had an agency like ours looked into the family tree, there are some wonderful people who are overlooked. And our children could have remained with their biological family instead of coming to live with strangers. So that's the heart of this, that families can take care of each other if we look hard enough into the past. In St. Louis, we started 2 programs, one called Extreme Recruitment and one called 30 Days to Family. We can find an average of 150 family members within 30 days of children entering foster care. And if you look that far, you're almost always going to find someone safe and appropriate. As a matter of fact, if we get to 300, we almost find an already licensed foster parent. So we're really on the cutting edge of this in Missouri. And nationally, about 25% of children live with relatives. In Missouri, 45%. It's incredible. by every measure, children do better. They do better academically. They do better behaviorally, emotionally. They're much more stable in their placement. They exit foster care faster, and they are safer. You know, there are very few silver bullets in child welfare. Relative placement is one of them. I'm not saying that there aren't problems from time to time. That is the case with life. But in general, our kids do so much better. So I want to give you two very specific examples of how our kids would be helped. We worked with an 8, a 6, and a 4-year-old who came into foster care because their mother was addicted to heroin. We found an amazing woman, a great aunt, who actually was in social services herself, that lived in a tiny little shotgun house. Now, this was a 1-bedroom house. But she had a den in this house. But you know shotgun houses, it's room, 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 and you gotta walk through all of them. So the 3 girls we could have put 2 bunk beds on one wall and another single bed on another wall. And yes, you would have had to walk through the bedroom, but there were 8, 6, and 4. Those girls are now separated into 2 different foster homes because we couldn't get that licensing done quickly, this expedited kind of a way that the representative was talking about. We also worked with a 17-year-old who came into foster care. 17 years old, and we found 224 relatives. And the person that 17-year-old wanted to go live with was his 30-year-old half-brother. In both cases, that great aunt and that half-brother were beyond the 3rd degree. So because of statute, the 17-year-old is now living in a residential facility, by the way, costing the state of Missouri more than $3,000 a month versus the $300 a month had he been living with that half-brother. So, you know, it all comes down to children want to be with who they know, trust, and love. They don't need to be with strangers. We don't need to continue the traumatization of why the kids came into foster care in the first place. This is supported by federal law, and there are other states, but very few, because we really are on the cutting edge of this. As a matter of fact, we are now training Orange County, California, in how to do these programs, and the entire state of Virginia is replicating, and a province in Canada is replicating what we're doing here in Missouri. And they're just amazed at the laws that we have that support these families. So we just need this one very small change to section 210.565. We are so excited that you came to visit with us and learn about these programs. It would really go far to help our kids in Missouri. Thank you.
All right. Are there questions from the committee for this witness? I'll start in the front. Representative Brenly,
To the choir.
you may.
Thank you. So if we would change this to this new law here. So you're saying the juvenile system would look for this first for replacement if they would take them out?
Yes. So the federal law and the state statute says that when a child comes into foster care, all relatives must be notified and identified. Now, I don't know what all means, but both support the fact that kids should be with relatives first. And if not, then kin, and if not, then strangers. That's right.
Well, the reason why I've had different complaints from family members that called me and actually told me that their family members were not, they were bypassed.
Right.
And, you know, and it was for little reasons. And one that, you know, the investigator went to the home and some of the family members, would this include like family members? I had one situation in my home area, the nearest relative that they could have put them in was in Kansas City.
Okay, Kansas City, Missouri, or Kansas City, Kansas?
Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
And, you know, the juvenile officer, I believe, actually, or whoever was involved in it, PFS, skipped over them. The investigator actually approved the home. And so I think this may be I'm glad if no other reason, bring light to what we should be doing. I think I like this. I think it's good.
Well, thank you for mentioning that. You know, one of the most heartbreaking calls I get, we work with the over 7,000 foster and adoptive parents in the St. Louis region. One of the most heartbreaking calls I get is from a foster mom and dad who maybe have had 2 children in their home. Let's say that they were 0 and 2, and now it's 2 years later, the kids are 2 and 4, and they're getting ready to adopt these children, right? And all of a sudden, someone has found grandpa. Right? How do you make that choice? That we shouldn't have to. We should be doing the work up front first. Right. So no, I appreciate you saying
I've
that.
heard some heart-wrenching stories, so I think this would be good.
Thank you, Representative.
All right. Other questions, Representative Meredith?
Chair Dwyer.
You may.
Okay, you said that you looked for relatives, and I've been to your place, I've read your brochure, and I love your Cinderella project.
Oh, thank you.
But anyway, you said you look for family, and everything I've read says that you look for family, the extended family, and you go pretty far and wide. In the bill, it refers to family friend, neighbor, teacher, and if you're looking within the family first, how do we get with the neighbor, the teacher, the family friend?
I really appreciate you bringing that up. Thank you, because I did skip over that. So one of the strengths in Missouri is that we understand culturally that kin is very important. Sometimes kin has a stronger connection than blood relations. So I can think of perhaps a godparent, right? You know, and every once in a while we do run into those families where we just can't find someone who's appropriate enough. I'll give you an example. We had, this was a sibling group of 5, and both mom's side and dad's side were heavily into gang activity. So much so that they were featured on an America's Most Wanted show. I'm not making this up. But you know what? There was a godparent to one of the girls who was willing to take all 5, you know, and this was kind of the person that kept them safe when mom and dad were out of jail, or mom and dad were high, or, you know, just wasn't safe in their family. So in Missouri, we're lucky that we can call, at least according to policy, relatives and kin kind of within in the same breath. We are working right now with a child who has autism and has just really not, he's 12 years old, has really not received adequate support in the biological home. So he's come into foster care, and the support that the potential placement for him is actually one of the para professionals that he worked with when he was 6 years old. So in that case, that's like the perfect match.
Well, I guess my concern is with the wording of the bill. And I've seen you guys work. I do some work in the field a little.
Right.
And I'm concerned because the relationship if the child has been TPR, the parents have parental rights have been terminated. Sometimes family can be dangerous for their children.
Sometimes.
And I know that you look at that. I guess I'm just having a problem with the wording, because it sounds like, well, pretty much just about anybody.
I can understand why you would think that. The bill does talk about the relationship with the child or the family, but I don't know if everybody on the committee knows, Representative Meredith is the CASA, which are court-appointed special advocates. These are some of the most amazing volunteers in the universe. And one of the things that happens when a decision is made where the child is going to live, it is not made by one person. It is not made by the caseworker, by the caseworker supervisor, by the CASA, by the deputy juvenile officer, it's made by an entire team of people. So it really is up to the team to decide, especially if a person is dangerous, they should be deciding, don't put that child there, right? It's really about understanding who's going to meet the needs of the child best. So the spirit of what Representative Brown has put together really talks about that existing relationship.
I just want to make sure there are no loopholes here.
Well, unfortunately, people are always going to find
eliminate them as much as possible, because we do have children that the aunt is willing, able, interested, wants to take the kids. However, the aunt has a close relationship with the mother, and not with her own mother, who also is the parent, the the parent of the children. So there can be, you know, if the aunt's visiting her mother and the children's mother comes over to visit, and there's the children.
Right, so I would go back to that's the team's responsibility, and especially in St. Louis County, where I think here at Casa St. Louis County, those court orders are very clear about what kind of contact can happen or not happen, but it's the team's responsibility to monitor that. So,
Sometimes it's hard to get into grandma's house.
well, and that probably wouldn't be a person that our agency would ever recommend them, because they wouldn't rise to the level of being the most appropriate placement. But your concerns are very well founded, and I hear them.
I'm just, you know, just a little bit, it seems open, and that's good, because I know you guys reach out to like 100 people.
Right.
And somebody steps forward and they said, in my family? No. And we're gonna take care of it, and they do. But I just have a problem with
Yeah.
wording.
And everybody has, I don't know, and neither families are perfect, but like, I would never want my kids to live with my cousin Jimmy. I mean, so it doesn't take away the responsibility of the professional, the children's division team or the courts, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Representative Mary, or, I'm sorry. Hey, Mary.
Thank you, Madam Chair. May I make a comment?
You may.
I want to thank Representative Brown for bringing this bill forward. I know the Children's Division does have this extreme recruitment program. It's been very successful. We invest in that program, and this is a great augmentation to the extreme recruitment. It's the other piece to that, and I just really appreciate the work on this bill.
Thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate that very much. Representative Lauer.
Thank you, Madam Chair, to the clerk.
You may.
Thank you. Could you walk through the process first for notification of family, and then how that list is exhausted, and then how we go through this? Could you explain that, please?
I would love to. So in the bad old days, the way notification would happen is the child comes into care and the caseworker will say to mom, okay, who are your family members? And mom says, nobody, right? Well, we know the can't be true. You've got a mother and father. So maybe the case manager might get a name or two out of mom. And then that case manager would send a letter to grandma, grandpa, saying your grandchild is entering foster care. Now, who likes getting a letter from the Children's Division in the mail, especially if you've got the distrust of the system in the first place? So the way our programs work, extreme recruitment in 30 days to family, the minute we get a referral, we go to the court, and we already know a couple things. We know the child's name, and we know mom's name, maybe dad's name, and we start doing searches, internet searches immediately. And so those include, I'm going to tell you our secret, it's Facebook is really number one. Now don't tell people because they'll make their sites private. But, but Facebook, CaseNet, very, very helpful. Good old Google, White Pages, and we actually come to the court with a family tree already established. And what does that do? That tells the family that we respect you, you've got people. You can't tell us you don't have any relatives because we already know who they are, and it opens up the door. So then we start building the family tree even further. We'll interview the relatives. We do lots of door knocking, and we'll go to people's places of work. We won't be, obtrusive about it, but we'll go to people's places of work. And it's through those family interviews that relationship that we start building the tree more and more and more. And then it's coming back to the office, doing the internet searches again, and then continuing to build that way. So there are many sites that we use, PeopleSoft, USSearch.com, and all of those really opened up the possibility for finding relatives. That's like the very short version. Is that helpful?
Yeah, I think so. My son says our family tree is more like a tumbleweed because he's picking up more relatives every time he sees them. But when it comes down to that, it sounds as though it's a pretty exhaustive, lengthy process that you go through. Is there a final, for lack of a better word, public notice or anything that says we've exhausted everything and now we are going to go to this next step, kind of like a final warning or a last option?
So no, there's not a final warning. I
warning, but it's just a last option opportunity.
No, so this is what our plan is. Our plan is always to find the person who is the best option for the child plus 2 backups, right? So we're coming with a way with at least 3 people who could possibly provide placement for that child. And we're coming to the team to say, this is who the people are, we've been out to their house, we've run the criminal background checks, they're clean, this is what their strengths are. So it's all of that. We do not stop the process until we've reached a couple of benchmarks. With 30 days to family, it's a minimum, or excuse me, with extreme recruitment, it's a minimum of 80 family members. With 30 days to family, it's a minimum of 150. And those are just kind of the magical numbers that we've developed over the years since 2008, when we know, okay, it's likely that we've exhausted the people that we're going to find. But until that case is closed, we never stop looking.
Okay, thank you, Dr.
Representative Ely.
Inquiry, please.
You may.
Thank you for bringing this legislation forward. I guess what comes to my mind is this seems so straightforward and simple and whatever, and I'm thinking, why haven't the attorneys of the courts come to us and say, hey, this is, what do you think of this? Or let's solve these problems this way. Any thoughts on that?
Yes. So it is ridiculous that this is such forward-thinking work. And quite frankly, there's no one else on the team. The courts don't have time to look into these relatives. The case managers don't have time. It's really our agency and those 3 others that I talked about that have the time and the support to get this work done. Our 30 days of family specialists can only carry 2 cases at a time. Those attorneys are carrying what? I mean, some of the DJOs are carrying 50 cases. There's similar amount of hours in the day.
Well, you would think that Missouri Bar Association or somebody would step up to the plate. Maybe there's just not enough lobbying for kids out there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there other questions for this witness? Seeing none, thank you. Be sure to leave a witness form. The others in support.
Actually, I probably don't have much to add from what you've already heard. I'm Kelly with the Office of Child Advocate, and we are in support of this legislation. I want to clarify, I too am a foster adopted parent, and my statement is in no way an indictment of foster and adopted parents. I've met some fabulous ones. But if my kiddos were first placed in a home with somebody that they knew, somebody that had a similar pattern, traditions, it would be much less traumatizing than to come to my home. And I think when you ask, why are we doing this now? Old school, you would remove a kid and get them far away from the family, because that's what's best. And on a piece of paper, my husband and I both have college educations. He's got a doctorate, I've got a master's. We don't have any credit trouble, we don't have any criminal trouble. And so clearly, on paper, we're the best thing for children. And so we would put children in foster care because we were best on paper. Now we're talking more about trauma-informed care. Coming to my home when you don't know me, you don't know my pets. I live in the country, you may have come from the city. You don't know our routines, what bedtime is, what expectations at dinner time are. That is all trauma. I'm not saying we're a bad home, but that's traumatizing for a child. So this is identifying that yes, relatives and kin may be absolutely the best thing for children. And getting to your question, still it's all about the best interest of the child. It may be relatives and kin aren't in the best interest of the child.
Questions? Representative Beard.
Thank you to inquire.
Yes.
Thanks for coming to testify today. Appreciate it. I don't understand this area of the law too well, but I do have a question. I'm reading the statute, the paragraph right below the section that's being modified here. And it states that the following shall be the order of preference for placement of a child in this section: grandparents and relatives. And number 2 kind of lists some of the same language that's being defined as kin. So my question would be, how would this change in the law change kind of how you just explained it would?
The third paragraph is about placement preference. The second paragraph is actually the definition. And so the second paragraph is defining kin. When we talk about those safety waivers for relatives, and when we're talking about safety waivers, when you come to my home, when you first walk through the door, you'll start to notice things that are very, very different about my home. I have fire escape routes posted in my home. I have a lockbox on my kitchen cabinet for all medication, even including vitamins and Tylenol. So some of these things that are required of my home may not be required of a relative's home because it's a non-safety waiver. But for these licensing agencies, if they can't license somebody, they may not be getting the reimbursement to care for a child too. And so that's why they went back to that defined kin.
Okay.
But that placement
So-
preference is still in state statute. That's still there.
And I thought I just heard you explain that kind of the benefit of this change would be that now, instead of a kiddo going to a foster home, we're gonna look at someone who has some previous connection to the child. But I mean, doesn't the statute already provide for that? It actually says the second preference on number 2, after a grandparent or a relative, would be a kin.
That's
I mean,
the
is
state.
that not happening right now, or?
We're still working with some courts on placement preference and following that state statute. So my honest answer to your question is we try to make
Okay.
that happen. In all jurisdictions, we are working on that placement preference. But the difference between paragraph 2 and paragraph 3, one is the definition and one is the placement preference. And the placement preference is already law.
Okay, so really the main purpose of this bill would be to allow a waiver for the kin. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Seeing none. Thank you for your testimony. Please leave a witness form. Are there others here in support, to speak in support of the bill? Next. Seeing none. Please stand. Are there those in opposition of the bill? None. Is there anyone here for informational purposes only? Any closing comments, Representative?
So just to thank you again for everything.
That concludes the hearing on House Bill 2492. All right, we shall move into executive session. All right, we will do Representative Swan's bill first. I move that House Bill 1953 be voted to pass. Is there any discussion? No. What I have here. Representative Swan, would you like to recap the bill for the members?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd be most happy to. This is the third year that I filed the clinic inspection bill based on numbers of violations found in previous years. I felt that there would be merit in requiring an annual unannounced inspection. In addition to that, current statute language also provides requirements for tissue reporting that strengthens the tissue reporting in statute, requiring that all tissue be submitted, as well as complete documentation of the treatment of that tissue. That's in a nutshell.
All right, thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just to clarify real quickly, Representative, is you've got different parts of your bill, but it also prevents also donation of fetal tissue too. Is that included in your legislation?
Correct. The statute also speaks to that no compensation may be received for tissue, aborted tissue. This simply is an additional clarification statute that it would not be donated as well. So many points of the bill strictly strengthen and clarify existing statute.
I just wanted to clarify that even if a person wanted to donate their own fetal tissue for any type of research, they would still be denied that opportunity with your legislation?
That's correct.
Thank you.
All right. All right, Mr. Secretary, please call the roll.
Chairman Franklin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Neely.
Aye.
Ranking Member Meredith.
No.
Representative Beard.
Aye.
Representative Bratton.
Aye.
Representative Brown.
Aye.
Representative Gannon.
Aye.
Representative Hager.
Aye.
Representative Lauer.
Aye.
Representative Newman.
No.
Representative Nor.
No.
Representative Remley.
All right. By your vote of a yes and 3 no, you have voted House Bill 1953 to pass.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
All right. I move that Senate Bill 607 be voted to pass. Is there any discussion? Representative Hager.
Madam Chair, I have an amendment. It's in point 02H. It has been distributed. What this amendment does, it just states that people living in home and community-based services will only have the required annual review of eligibility as opposed to quarterly review because their situations don't change very often.
Do you move for its adoption?
And I move for its adoption.
All right, thank you. All right. All those in favor of adopting House Committee Amendment Number 1 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed by saying no. The ayes have it. You have adopted the amendment. I move that that Senate Bill 607 be voted do pass with House Committee Amendment Number 1. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, please call the roll.
Chairman Franklin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Neely.
Aye.
Ranking Member Meredith.
No.
Representative Beard.
Aye.
Representative Bratton.
Aye.
Representative Brown.
Aye.
Representative Gannon.
Aye.
Representative Hager.
Aye.
Representative Lauer.
Aye.
Representative Newman.
No.
Representative Nor.
No.
Representative Remley.
All right. By your vote of 8 yes and 3 no, you have voted Senate Bill 607 to pass with Committee Amendment Number 1. Very good. Thank you. All right. Now we will, let's see. I move that HJR 98 be voted to pass. Is there any discussion? Representative Bratton.
I have an amendment to offer, and then in .048, I move for its adoption.
Do you want to discuss the amendment?
This is an amendment that the Representative Moon, had brought forth about removing the exemptions and dealing with the amendments of personhood. All life is life, regardless of how it was conceived, and that's what this amendment would remove the stipulations of those exemptions. So.
Is there any other discussion? Representative Newman.
Yes, Madam Chair, I just wanted to clarify that this amendment would actually, what we're doing in terms of the joint resolution, which could go on the ballot, would also, but you're taking out the exemptions. Just want to make that really clear to the committee that the way that the new amendment would read is that people retain the right through their elected state representatives and state senators, actually, so it'd be the legislature would be able to enact, amend, and repeal statutes regarding abortion. And what this is doing is taking out, as you clarified, those exemptions resulting from rape or incest, or to save the life of the mother. So I just wanted to point out this is extremely punitive and
again, would be placing many women in danger.
Thank you. Other discussion? Right, seeing none. All those in favor of adopting House Committee Amendment Number 1 signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed signify by saying no.
No.
The ayes have it. You have adopted the amendment. I move that the HJR 98 be voted do pass with House Committee Amendment Number 1. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Chairwoman Franklin.
Aye.
Vice Chair Neely.
Aye.
Ranking Member Meredith.
No.
Representative Beard.
Aye.
Representative Bratton.
Aye.
Representative Brown.
Aye.
Representative Gannon.
Aye.
Representative Hayfair.
Aye.
Representative Loud.
Aye.
Representative Newman.
No.
Representative Noor.
No.
Representative Brimley.
All right. By your vote of 8 yes and 3 no, you have voted HJR 98 do pass with House Amendment Number 1. That concludes the Children and Family hearing for today. Thank you.
Yeah, well, they might, if your leg is.
Yeah.
Literally, you would literally actually, somebody should probably. There are no excuses. Oh my God.
So awful, like, yeah, it's very personal. You can